somebody along the chain of command must have been aware of just how crappy all of this was. For production this expensive, somebody should have been putting the pressure on to do quality storytelling, but they weren't. They're just like, whatever you want to do, just do it.
This is acceptable to you?
Now that I look closer, yeah.
All right.
Hey, this is the Sword and the Pen Reflections. It is my casual alternative to the formal channel, The Sword and the Pen, link up there. So if you've come this far, you know what the deal is. We are on Season 1, Episode 7, which I have seen, but instead of taking notes while watching it, I decided I'm actually going to view it on my phone and just give my thoughts as I am rewatching these scenes. So let's see if this system works. I'm doing this mainly because my last time, the process of taking notes was just so demoralizing, and then having to relive everything that I wrote down in front of the camera, it brought me down so bad that I had to refilm everything twice. So hopefully this avoids that problem, but let's get into it. Ooh. The corresponding chapters for this episode seems to be Book 1, chapters 44 through 50. Well, not through 50, but up to 50, so 49. Okay, so this is a very interesting way to start out an episode. I'm usually not a fan of just somebody running and we don't know who they're running from or why, but this actually did a very good job of visually telling us what's going on. So you have a pregnant warrior girl, and she's Aiel because she's got her face covered, which we learned about in the previous episode with Tom. Not the previous episode, but you know. And yeah, she's pregnant. I don't know why her armor doesn't cover the baby part. I don't know much about the Aiel, so I don't know. Anyway, but we can tell what's going on. She's a warrior. She's been in a battle. You can hear battle cries off in the distance. You can see catapult stuff flying through the air. So she's running out away from a battle because she's giving birth. You can see that she's bending over, like she's about to, it's gonna happen. This is actually very good storytelling visually. Like, we got all of that information just from like 15 seconds of seeing this gal. So good job in the beginning here with this. I will say though that that warrior who came and started hacking at her came out of nowhere. So I don't know where he was, but it didn't look like there were any guys around her when she took shelter behind this rock to have her baby. And how did he know that there was going to be somebody behind that rock? Unless he was like pretending to be dead on the ground somewhere. I didn't look very closely to see if there were bodies. You know, somebody faking. I mean, that's what I would do. If I was in a battle and I was like, we're screwed, I'd just pretend to be dead and then hope that somebody doesn't come and, you know, skewer the dead bodies for, you know, reassurance. This is good action. I'm enjoying this a lot. Like, I'm a really big fan of martial arts movies and just sword fights and action. I mean, this is called The Sword and the Pen because I am a fencer and I'm an editor. So I love fighting sequences when they're done right. And so far, I'm enjoying this a lot. Like when she grabbed the guy's cape and swung around, that was cool. I liked that. And then she stabs him right in the face or the throat. Watching this in the editing bay, I am noticing way more problems with this, like how guys seem to be missing her when they take swings, and she's not dodging or ducking, but oh well. It was more interesting than the forest fights, and that made it a standout for me, because it was hand-to-hand instead of just arrows and explosions and no shaky cam. That's really effective. Please stop doing shaky cam during fight scenes, people. A+ to this actress because I think she executed all or most of these stunts. But I didn't like when she used the guy as a shield when the other guy was throwing the knife at her. How long did it take for that knife to reach her? It was tumbling through the air for like a good 3 seconds, which is a very long time for a knife to be flying. Okay, so then when she goes to take out the 2 guys that are coming for her and then the 3rd guy gets involved, like this is actually very difficult to film properly, but it's a trick of making sure that your stuntmen are not all standing around doing nothing while she's engaged with only one of them. You have to choreograph this so that only 1 or 2 guys are on her at one time, because there's no way that you can fight 3 guys at once. You just can't. I don't care how spectacular the Aiel are, unless this is like the Matrix and she can move faster than physics, that just won't work. But so what they did was there was only one moment I could see where it looked like one guy wasn't engaged in the fight, but he was within engagement distance. And they did a pretty good job of of editing it so that you would only see that if you were really looking hard for it. So one of the best scenes of sword fighting multiple assailants like this that I have seen in the last like 10 years was Kenshin the Beginning. And I haven't seen the other Kenshin movies. I really didn't have a whole lot of interest in them except for the sword fights. So I've seen the sword fights, but I haven't seen the rest of the films. But in the very beginning, so there's a scene where he is taking out like a bunch of different samurai that are in this small room, and then he ends up in a hallway with even more. It's good that they had him in the hallway because he's only taking out one guy at a time. And when he's in the room, he's keeping his back to the wall and he's watching everybody else, and they're quick engagements. This is how you shoot a one person versus multiple assailants, is you keep it on them and avoid showing the other guys who are doing nothing, and find ways to make the audience believe that they've stumbled over and they're getting up, or they're too tired, or they're too scared. Different things that would be an excuse for only one or two bad guys to be going after your main protagonist at a time. So Kenshin did it right. They're actually doing it very well here. Like I said, I could only see one shot, maybe half a shot, where I thought that there was a third person involved that wasn't engaging when they should have been. So this is good. Well done. And I do like that she gets got. I mean, after all of that, it would have been nice if there were still two guys and then she gets got, because then it would be like, yeah, it was while she was having a contraction and there were two guys and that's how they got her. And then she still managed to somehow kill both of them. That would have been a little bit better, would have shown her being still the badass, but it was like, I don't know. I guess it's fine. It was fine. And then this is a good way to end it, where you have, this is definitely Tam, because you can see the heron marked blade, the heron as he's holding the blade on her. Well, anyway, I thought that this was good. And I, since this is my second time viewing it, I know that he does, have mercy on her for she's having a baby, and so instead of killing her, he helps. I like this. This is a great, engaging intro, and I'm hoping that what happens is you cut this off and you jump immediately to Rand, and we see that this is his birth. At this point, the hints are very strong. He's got red hair. Loyal said, "You look like an Aiel with your red hair." His dad, Tam, had the heron-marked blade. And then it was also the mountain, Dragon Mount, and Rand seeing it and saying, "I've seen this before." The hints are so strong at this point that, it was blown a while ago, I think, in the show that Rand is the dragon. So I'm not really sure why they're still trying to they're still trying to pretend like the jig isn't up, but it's up.
Keep absolutely still. This vision's based on movement.
But as far as cold opens go, I think this was maybe the best one yet. There was no dialogue, and yet we knew exactly what was going on. And that's a surprise to me, considering the quality of writing that we've seen up until now, especially how everything has been tell instead of show. This was the opposite. This was all show, and it was successfully conveyed. We know exactly what the situation was. We know exactly what was going on. And it was engaging, and the action was nice. Good action. Well done. I can't believe I'm saying that at this point. After watching this the first time, I remember thinking hey, maybe this is actually gonna pull a magic rabbit out of a hat. We're gonna see something great, but... Okay, so now we jump into the ways. Okay, I don't know how big of a deal I made about this in the last episode review, but Moiraine in the books does not use the one power to open the WayGate. There's this little key that's like a leaf, and you just move it from one place to another. And that to me made a lot of sense, considering that this was a gift to the Ogiers from the male Aes Sedai for them to use. So they can't use the one power that I'm aware of. So this is how it works for them. But now you need the one power to open the gate. And I'm like, okay, so they didn't need Loyal to show them where the WayGate was, because that's why they needed Loyal in the first one, and then also to lead them through the ways. And this is the beginning of me wondering, why is Loyal not the one in the lead here? Why is he here in the show? In the book, it's very specific. We need an Ogier, because only an Ogier can find the ways and navigate them, in a clear kind of way, because there's these little way stones that kind of have some instructions on them, and that he can follow those. And why is why is Loyal here in the show? There's like no reason for him to be there because Moiraine is leading the way, as if she has taken the ways many times before. Did I forget something from the book? I don't recall her saying that she has taken the ways before. So a note that I forgot to mention was that Ogiers can't use the one power from what my understanding of the Ogiers is. So how do they use the ways in the first place in the show? Also, the ways were created by the male Aes Sedai, so how would the female Aes Sedai know how to open it? But it seems like the show has decided that the one power is just a one power. There's not two sides, that like the men can only use the men's side and the women's can only use the women's side. It's like they both draw from the same power source, but it becomes tainted when the men use it. So that's a huge fundamental rule change to the world building here. But yeah, anyway, back to this whole using the one power to open the gate. Okay, so Moiraine opens the gate, they all go in, and it closes. And then they're like, we gotta go and open it again so that Mat can come in. And Loyal's like, you can't use the one power in here because it'll attract Machin Shin. And now in the book, that's not what attracts Machin Shin. What attracts it is people being in the ways. And if there's a large group of people, more like it's more attracted. It's like, more people, like it can get you higher chance of you getting to it. Since she used the one power to open the gate, wouldn't that have already attracted Machin Shin?
What are the rules?
There's only one rule. Are you ready? Here it is. There are no rules.
But yeah, okay, at least Egwene was like, look, we don't even know how to use the one power. What are we gonna open? Like if Moiraine, it's a little goofy that they're having this conversation like practically right in front of Moiraine. Like she's like, we don't have time, we have to go. And she's like walking and they're like, well, forget her. We're gonna open the gate. And thank goodness Egwene is like, how? How do you propose we do that? I don't know how to use this power. You don't know how to use this power. But remember, Nynaeve thinks that she knows everything. She knows everything. Okay, watching this scene for the second time, it really feels like this whole scene where they pause and Nynaeve goes, we need to open the WayGate, and Egwene's like, no, we can't, we don't know how to use the one power, and Loyal explains what Machin Shin is, we can't use the one power. I think this was like a scene that they realized they really needed to have in here and they forgot. So they filmed it later and then they stuck it in here because the way that Moiraine left the group, it seemed clear to me, or it seemed like the logical thing for everybody to do is follow her. Like it looked like even Nynaeve was like, okay, I guess we'll just go with you. But they show Moiraine leaving and then we're back on Nynaeve going, we need to find a way to open the gate. And I'm going, it's a awkward, like we're going to ignore everybody and everything that just happened like 2 seconds ago. And we're going to have our own conversation right here. It's so awkward. I swear, I really think that this was something that they filmed later and then stuck in here because they realized, oh no, we forgot to put in a thing explaining what Machin Shin is. And they led into that by having Nynaeve be the one who says, we need to open the WayGate. So the writers are basically like, oh no, we need everybody to stand here and do something for a couple of seconds before they continue on. Well, just have Nynaeve say something. I mean, she's a shit character anyway at this point, so doesn't hurt to make her any more unlikable. She's already as unlikable as we can make her be at the moment. I do love the Loyal character. I think he's just charming, and he's basically like, imagine a tree ent from Lord of the Rings, except way more talkative and like not wanting to stop talking, but he wants to be involved in everything. I don't know why, I just get that tree ent impression. And he is supposed to be much bigger than he is in the show. That's fine. As much as I would love to have everything be perfect in adaptations, something like this, for the sake of budget, I can forgive. I can forgive that they don't have like a 13-foot tall guy. I don't think he's 13 feet tall, but he's very, very tall. I can't remember how tall he is. He's very, very tall, much taller than this, to the point that he makes a regular-sized horse look like a tiny pony. So anyway, Loyal and Perrin would probably be good buddies. Before we continue, please consider liking, subscribing, and commenting, even if it's just with an emoji. It's a free way for you to support the channel, and for me it might bring in some money for all the commercials they keep putting on my videos. Or if you're feeling generous, you can check out my Patreon or Ko-fi, or click on the Money Heart Thanks button down below. Now let's get back to it. Okay, yeah, and Moiraine going, the darkness in Mat better than anybody. I have been getting comments, people saying that they have character assassinated Mat. And I have to agree. This seems like a very... They did not treat this character very well in that they decided that he is a corrupt person from the start. And he's not in the book. He is an innocent, fun-loving prankster kid who happens to come across this dagger that instills evil in him, basically, that he has to battle. It's basically Frodo. Well, actually, it'd be more like Pippin with the One Ring.
You just said something tree-ish.
I was just stretching.
You did something.
Imagine that scenario. That's what this should have been. And that's not what we're getting. We're getting, this was a bad person who got a knife that made him even badder, and he's bad completely on his own. That's what we're being shown here. And this does fundamentally change a character. It's very dangerous to fundamentally change a character, especially early in a story that you're expecting to be very, very long, an MC especially. So no good here. I don't care if the actor said, I quit, I'm not able to come back. You recast that role and you start filming with the new guy. Like, that would be much better than him abandoning the gang. He went with them in the show, or in the books. In the books, he's part of the Fellowship all the way to the bitter end. That's part of the goodness and the resilience in him that I think Moiraine talks about, especially in book 2, that he can somehow resist the corruption of this knife, that it does get to him, but he's got some sort of special resilience. So this was I understand why people say that he was character assassinated. I get it. And they did that. That was bad decision. And I don't care. They should have recast this character. Even if they only recast him for 2 episodes and then starting in season 2, they found a third person who would be even better. This was not a good idea. Okay. So then we have Rand is going, we have to go and get Matt. We can't just leave him. And Egwene goes, we didn't leave him. He left us. Like, it's dawning on them that they have been sort of betrayed by him. This is, again, now we're just gonna crap on Matt, I guess, okay? But this, now, having seen the whole episode, this is the introduction to conflict between Matt and Egwene. Can we not have a moment with the two of them being in simpatico? Like, they both want the same thing, they're both happy, they're both good to be together. You see, having them in a constant state of conflict just makes the audience not want them to be a couple. There is no couple in this whole show that I want to see break up more than these two, because they have been nothing but fighting and arguing. We have not once seen them not in a state of, I am fighting with you. That's like toxic. Nobody likes to watch that on screen unless it's comical in some way, or unless we're seeing like a one person being battered down and we want them to rise up and, defeat the abuser and, go off on their own thing. But that's not what this situation is. We just see 2 toxic people who can't get along forced into a relationship. I don't care. And I'm sorry, but their little reunion, the whole thing that Rand said, it feels good to see you. That doesn't count. That was just terrible. And it lasted, 2 lines? So they have to insert conflict into the 2 of them. And this is conflict that I see that they're going to try to push all the way to the end of the story, because they have to have something going on between the 2 of them butting head. It's really hard to root for a relationship that you haven't seen in a state of good ever. Oh gosh, I hope they break up soon. And then they're all trying to decide if they're going to keep going. Well, they're already in there. Okay, whatever. And for these kids to be looking up to Nynaeve in the show, I don't believe it. So the kids in the book feel young. They feel naive. They feel like they don't know anything about the world. And Nynaeve, although she is not a very mature person, she does come across as being older and more mature and being the leaderly type. And I just don't believe it in the show. In the show, she seems to be just as immature, actually maybe even more so in some cases, than the kids. So for them to defer to her for what should they do, I didn't believe for a second. If anyone in this situation should have been like, well, we should just go with them, it should have been Perrin. This conversation should have ended with Perrin stating the obvious, we're stuck in here, even though it was a terrible, like, why did they have him say this? Because, well, they did because they had to move the group along somehow. You get the idea. It should have been him who said, we should just go with them and we'll go back for him later. But, Nynaeve is supposed to be the leader, so she had to have this line, even though she has done nothing up until now to tell me that she is an older, more mature person than these other kids. They really seem like the same age, too. She doesn't seem older than them. And I'm talking about age as far as maturity is concerned, because I know she's only a few years older than them in the book, too. But she seems more mature than them in the book. Okay, quick note. When I say that Perrin should have suggested that they go get Mat after everything is over, I mean only that Perrin in this moment in the show was the one talking sense. Nynaeve was just bonkers. She just suggested that we go and reopen the gate, despite not knowing how to do that, and knowing that only Moiraine knows how, but she's not going to. Since Nynaeve is supposed to be wise, she should never have suggested opening up the gate again. She should have been aware of what the situation was, but she just talks before she thinks. She should have been the one in this scenario telling the kids that they have to go on and they can come back for Mat later. But yeah, there's no logical progression or character roles in this conversation. Then we have Lan and Moiraine having a private conversation where he's concerned, what if it's him? What if he's the dragon? And Moiraine goes, there's an inherent evil in him. The knife was feeding on him as much as he was on it. And then she basically says that I already know what his choice would be if we go to the Eye of the World with him. Like, he would join the Dark One. So I would have to kill him. So it's like better that he's not there, basically. Yet more crapping on Mat, like he's evil. Like in his core, he is a bad person. And that is not who he is in the book. And I feel that I understand. I'm just stating it again. I understand why people were upset about this one. But this does make me think about what Lan just said. So this question, what if it's him? Why wasn't this a question on their minds and in their conversation like all the time throughout the entire series? If you want to build up who is the dragon, you should have that conversation happening repeatedly in different situations throughout the entire series up until the ending. Like, if that's it, we want to build up to that. They should have been talking about this back in the Aes Sedai camp. They should have been talking about this once they had all the kids. Like, there's not a time when Moiraine and Lan, when they had the kids after they just left Edmund's Field, where they're like, which one do you think it is? Like, any closer to figuring it out? Like, that way the audience knows this is something we should be thinking about too. I mean, I know people can say like, oh, well, it's up to the audience to think about that stuff. No, this is poor storytelling, because if the characters don't seem to care, the audience will stop caring as well. Again, I still don't understand why Loial isn't leading the way. So in the book, Loial is the one who knows where they're trying to go. Like, he seems to have this sort of like an instinct, like a pigeon who always knows the way home. He can always kind of know which way to go. And he's also able to read the way, the stones that tell you which way to go. And there's these little white lines that kind of tell you where to go too. He's not in the lead here, so I'm going, why the hell is he here? Okay, actually, yeah, now I know why Loial is here. He's the info dump truck. He basically knows what the ways are. He knows about the lore and the history and the dangers within. He is there to inform the audience of what these things are. That's so useless. At least in the book, he had a purpose. He was there to guide them. No, you've taken his value away. Moiraine, get in the back. Loial, move forward, please. So they did have another moment here of comedy, and I thought that, yes, I get it. I'd love to have a little bit of comedy thrown in here. It's falling flat because, I don't know, maybe it's only falling flat for me because I'm seeing so many other mistakes and things that are being done that feel like this is forced writing. But this is, to me, falling flat, this humor. And although I liked it, like, that's just it. I liked this humor where Rand goes, oh, it's okay. You don't have to tell us what's worse than falling into a bottomless pit, because he knows that Loial would just ramble on about these terrible things and it would like bring everybody down. But, you know what? That's fine. It was fine. Okay, so the ways are described as being these floating sort of islands with these bridges between them. And I just imagine this big empty space with, floating bodies and bridges between them that go off like this, right? And that's not what we get in the show, but this is one of those cases of I'm okay with this because this is the sort of thing that you do when you have a budget issue. Say, okay, it would be very expensive for us to create a giant area with all of these islands. And in the book, it's actually described as the light from their torches seemed to be swallowed up by the darkness. So they couldn't even see very far anyway. So this is fine with me. And I guess that's all I really have to say about that. I mean, I wasn't really imagining these sort of like, what is it called? Giant's Causeway sort of pillar things, but maybe those are supposed to be petrified trees. I'm not really sure because, yeah, what Loial describes is that this used to be this living place with trees and greenery and everything. And, you would just find your way. And now it's been completely corrupted. Oh, yes. Then we get the best conversation yet. Okay. This is so good. So Lan has stolen my heart here. So he falls back to chit-chat with Nynaeve, which I just don't see he would ever do this. Why would Lan ever do this? He should be guarding everybody. But this is what he says.
I owe Moiraine 3 silvers. You were scowling. I bet I'm pouting.
He thought that she was doing the more immature of the two things. He bet that she was pouting like a little baby, like... He does not think very highly of Nynaeve, which speaks very highly of his judgment. But for some reason, Nynaeve is flattered by this. She can see it on her face. And Lan is side-glancing her like, I got her, now she's mine. Oh, come on, Lan. You can do so much better than show Nynaeve. And then Perrin, from the back, is able to see up ahead that there's something up there. And even though I like that this is a demonstration of his new abilities, with his wolf eyes, he can like see better in the dark. I'm not sure that I liked that he says, wait, there's something up there. And it's just a rock that looks pretty much like all the other rocks have looked like until now.
I like that boulder. That is a nice boulder.
What they should have done is had them come across waystones, and Loial is sitting there deciphering them. And so now Perrin knows what they are. And then as they're approaching this other one, he can say, wait, that one looks ruined. And then they all like, what? And they get up and they look at it, and then they would see that it seems to have been ruined. And then you can have the conversation with like, how the hell did you see that? That would have been better. Maybe that's just me being nitpicky. I don't know. Okay. And then this part is... Again, sloppy writing, I think, okay. They're approaching this stone, they get to it, and they see that it's been defaced, and that's their map to where they're going, essentially, or telling them where they want to go. And they decide, okay, we need Loial to decipher what it says, and so we're going to all stop here for the night while he figures it out. Then you have Lan talking to Moiraine and saying, do you know what did this? And she doesn't know. And then he says, something is following us. Now, okay, so if this is what was going on, this makes no sense. It was just shitty writing, okay? They are approaching something. They get there, and they're moving this direction. And because of the damage that has been done up ahead of them, Lan determines that there's something following them, behind them. Like, how?
Well, you got me. By all accounts, it doesn't make sense.
But what I think that they meant was this, that they get to the stone and they see that it's been defaced, but it should have been clear that it's been defaced for a long time. I don't remember. I do remember this happening in the book, but I can't recall if it was like it was just defaced or if it's been defaced for a while. Like they should see it and he should say something did this, like it's been a while. And then Lan can go, do you know what did this? And she can go, no. I was like, well, we better figure out what it says because I think that there's something that, like, I thought I sensed something following us or something. I would have to just sit and think how to, smooth this scene out, but there's got to be a better way to do this. If that's what was supposed to be going on, it was not clearly conveyed. If it was supposed to be that this has been defaced for a while and Lan just happened to also notice that they're being followed by something and like they're two separate things, that's not how this came across. Because of the writing in the show, it seems like something that's supposedly behind them got ahead of them and defaced this thing, and now it's behind them again. It's really weird. Like, how can you be being followed by something that does damage ahead of you? Then everybody beds down, and Rand and Egwene have this meaningful look at each other, and Rand is like, come on, come lie down with me. And she's like, yeah, okay, it's okay for me to do that. Because remember the last time that she tried to do this, he like told her, I want to be alone. And so she got all butthurt and left. Who cares? I want them to break up anyway because they are a toxic couple. So this moment felt forced. The last time we saw them, they were arguing with each other. He was going, do you really think that lowly of Matt? And she was like, he left us. Like, and you have Perrin seeing Egwene cuddle down with Rand, and he clearly looks like he's kind of disappointed, you know, that I didn't think that they'd be together. And he does this little thing on his nose, and he, you know, turns and looks the other way. And you can see Nynaeve noticing this reaction and then watching watching Matt and, oh my gosh, there are too many freaking names. Watching Rand and Egwene snuggling together, almost like she wishes she could have that, or she sees what's going on and she's like, well, I don't think that they're going to be together. Who knows what she's thinking? Does anybody really care what she's thinking? I don't really care what she's thinking. She's a shit character at this point in the show, so I don't. What they should have done, especially since this is my second time watching this episode and I know where this is going, they should have had Nynaeve seeing the two of them cuddling together, not even being aware of Perrin. Like, just don't look at Perrin. You don't need to be, who cares about this? She shouldn't care about this. I don't care about this. She should have watched Egwene and Rand cuddling up. And having been a wisdom and alone, then you should have her looking up and seeing Lan standing guard over them while Moiraine and Loial are looking at the runes. This would have created that longing, just a look. She just has to look at him and kind of want you. The audience knows what's going on. She just saw the two of them, you know, Rand and Egwene cuddling, and then she looks over at Lan, like almost wishing that she, you know, she had somebody to hold her and shelter her like that. I mean, what? I mean, come on, guys. Romance is not that hard to do. There's a reason why it is the biggest genre in all of literature. It's because it's doable, it's kind of formulaic, and when you're doing it in a movie or a show, you can still have romance or introduce a romance with just some very simple tricks. The whole I'm watching you while you don't notice I'm watching you thing is like, that's like one of the easiest vehicles for introducing a romance. And then we get Lan being the most Lanny Lan that Lan's ever landed so far in the show. He's standing guard, dark and mysterious. This is the first time I have seen Lan being Lan, and it's so much sexier than the snarky teenager humor that he's been doing up until now. And I finally get some of those comments that I was getting earlier for the episode where there was the funeral and he did the crying out thing. That is a problem. So I'm going to backtrack here a bit and go back to the step-in funeral. I was told in a comment, and thank you for not spoiling it for me, in the comment somebody said that there is a very significant moment coming up in Lan's arc in the books where he has a breaking of the shell, like we see him crack. And that has now been ruined. The significance of that moment, the punch, the intensity, everything that is significant about that moment has been ruined by that funeral moment, a public display of pain and an emotion like that. He is the guy in the cloak staring off into the dark with a straight face. That's who Lan is. And so when you have a moment where he is spiritually or psychologically broken that's coming up, it's going to be a big moment and people are going to be like, it was well built up to. Like, we didn't see him crack until something major happened. But the show has now blown this by having that moment earlier in the series. So I'm going back on that whole thing and I'm saying that was a mistake. You shouldn't have done that, because now the arc for Lan coming to a moment of being spiritually destroyed in some way, or, you know, in the good kind of way that we like to see, the significance of that moment is diminished. Then there's some whistling, and Egwene is the one who notices it and wakes up, even though she was asleep. Why didn't Lan notice it? He's the sentinel guarding the camp. He should have noticed this. He should have been the one to be like, something's out there, and it whistled. There is no excuse for this. Lan is a terrible guard in the show. And then a Trolloc attacks them like it's on top of them when it gets to them. Now, I keep picking up. It has not been specified. We don't know, at least maybe I missed it if it has been. I'm on chapter 9 or 10 in book 2, and I'm still getting hints that Lan has this sense, like he can sense evil approaching, like magically, okay? Because Moiraine asks him, what do you sense? And he'll like think, you know, and like look out into the distance, right? So why didn't he know that the Trolloc was right there? Lan is not a good bodyguard. He is not a good guard at all. Why is he there? The show has made him obsolete. Oh yeah, and then they all stand around there panicking about Egwene she used the one power she channeled in order to defend herself and send the Trolloc over the edge, and that means Ma Chin is coming. So they've all paused to discuss what the consequences are of Egwene having channeled. Sometimes they seem to be skipping over things because they're thinking, you know what, the audience can just figure this out. And then other times they're force feeding things to us so much that we're like, we get it. You don't need to stop and think. We already know Ma Chin will come to you if you channel. All she had to say was, I channeled, and they should all look at each other with panic, and Moiraine be like, quick, get us to the next gate. And finally now, Moiraine defers to Loyal, like, take us to the gate that leads to Faldara. But she knew the way to all the other gates, so how come she didn't know the way to Faldara? I don't know. I will say that it looks like they built a set that is like one long corridor, and they've just reused that, coming at it from different angles. And because of the lightning and the darkness, we can't really see. It is funny to me because I feel like there's no excuse when this was such an expensive production. But, you know, if you were going to have a budget cut, this is actually a good way to do it. But I'm laughing because I'm going like, well, if the money wasn't spent here, where was it spent? Because you didn't have enough extras in your army before. You used the same room over and over again in the White Tower. Somebody went home with a really big paycheck, though, because we didn't see what the money did on screen. Show me the money! It is a little awkward that they stop at this arch path, this bridge going to the Waygate. Like, Loyal pauses, they see this archway bridge, and he goes, the Waygate is just up ahead, and they're like, oh no, and then they like slowly go over the bridge. I was waiting for something catastrophic to happen on the bridge, something like in the Mines of Moria when like the stalactite or whatever breaks the path and then it's swaying and they have to get across. That's what I was waiting for, but nothing happens. They just get to the other side. Something should have happened on the bridge for them to have all paused and because that is a trick of editing and directing, is that the pause and seeing that it's just this little narrow bridge is where the tension is created, like, oh, something's going to happen on that bridge. And they all get across just fine. So, like, the payoff wasn't there. There should have been something that happened. And then Ma Chin captures them. And it might just be me, but I don't recall Ma Chin actually capturing them, because it was understood that Ma Chin would rip out their souls or something. But okay, so I just want to go over the different things that Ma Chin says to all of them, because these should be significant revelations about the character in some way. So for Moiraine, it says, you're wrong about everything. You'll murder these children and call it heroism. Okay, so her being wrong about everything. Now, we did in the previous episode see her having doubt, but before that, no. There was that one line in the tent with Lan where Lan asks, is Logain as powerful as Egwene? And she goes, I don't know. I don't think so. But then after that, she's like, no doubt. She just knows that Logain is not it. And she knows that it's, must be one of the other kids. And then we got nothing of her doubt until the previous episode where she suddenly reveals that for 20 years, I may have been wrong. I'm like second guessing myself and everything. So this was an ineffective thing to throw at, because now I feel like the reason they had that line in the previous episode is because they wanted this to be such a big moment for Moiraine. And then the second half was, you'll murder these children and call it heroism. Well, she's already said that she would kill the one that would break the, if you're not going to be a good dragon, you're a bad dragon, I'm going to kill you. Like, was that in the show? I don't know. They're kind of bleeding together now. But we already know that she doesn't care if one of them dies. I mean, she let Matt go. So She doesn't care what happened to him. I don't know. This was just weak. And for Egwene, it says, you're nothing, an imposter, a fraud. We really haven't seen this be something that she's worried about at all. Literally the only thing that I think was a hint, and if it was intentional, fine, but it was too subtle then. That was in the previous episode where she meets Suan, and Suan is like praising one of the two, saying, I've heard you're the most powerful powerful channeler we've seen in 1,000 years. And then she specifies that she's talking about Nynaeve, and you can see on Egwene's face that she's like, oh, was it me? I feel like that was that it? That was the hint, that if that was supposed to be it, the hint that she's like, I'm not really that good. Look, we didn't see this. This moment should have been built up to. We should have seen her like doubting that she actually can do anything with the one power, or that she actually is any good at anything. Like, we should have seen that be something that she really struggles with for this to be meaningful. What has she struggled with up until now? Now, the one for Rand is actually pretty accurate. It says, Egwene will never love you as much as you love her. And this is true. And they have actually established this, and it's been a thing throughout. Like, this is the one that was well set up. The only problem being that Egwene keeps coming back to him, and he keeps taking her back, but he also didn't want to take her back in the beginning. He kept pushing her away, so it would have been better if we consistently saw him trying to fight for the relationship, like he's the one who's like, we can do this, we can work through this. And then she's like, okay, kind of giving in to him now that the adventure is on and she's not going to be a wisdom anymore and all this stuff. But it's still like the lingering doubt for him. Like, does she really want to be with me, or does she want other things? That would have been a more smooth progression to leading up to Rand feeling this, or this being the thing that Machin Shin would say to him to destroy his soul. Yeah, she left you once and she'll leave you again. Yeah, we know. And a quick note I want to add here is that, remember, in this moment, we will find out by the end of the episode, Rand is told by Machin Shin that he is also the dragon. Like, he's told, you are the dragon and you've always known it. And this is something that he seems to forget until after he's banged Egwene. We just don't get enough of him acting very different after this moment to indicate that he has learned something that's like life-changing. He just forgets until he's supposed to remember. Okay, then for Perrin, it says, you wanted Layla dead, out of the way. That's why you killed her, because you loved another woman more than your wife. And this would have been so much more effective if the camera and the directing focused on his interactions with Egwene in like he was feeling guilty about being attracted to her. But the only instance, because I paid close attention to that whenever it showed Perrin and Egwene from the very beginning. Episode 1, we saw him looking at her, and I thought, did he cheat on his wife with her or something? In this case, he cheated on his wife with his heart. Okay, so he was in love with this other woman, but he got married. But he didn't show didn't show himself to be unfaithful, whatever. But okay, so after that though, there were times when he was with Egwene by themselves. Like, there was a time where they were sitting at camp and he gives her his coat. And then there was the whole thing with the Tuatha on. And I did not catch anything more than Egwene being supportive of him. But he didn't seem to see her in any romantic way at all, or even a guilty way. Like, there was no conveyance of guilt in him after they left Edmund's Field when he would look at Egwene. No conveyance of guilt when he would look at Egwene after they left Edmund's Field. You get what I mean. So that's a failure on the part of the director, not putting, or maybe even the screenwriter, whoever, it should have been in the script, and we see him look at Egwene and we know that he feels guilty. And the director and the actor and the cinematographer should have figured out, how do we convey that? But it didn't happen. Between the death of his wife and this moment, there was nothing between him and Egwene that made me think like there was more than, like, I figured, I imagined it. When I went, for episode 2, I think I even commented on that. I said, I must have just imagined that there was something between him and Egwene in that first episode, especially from him towards Egwene. For Lan, it's you can't protect her, you'll watch her die. And I mean, I guess, is that supposed to be talking about Moiraine? Anyway, whatever. I mean, yeah, he's the protector guy, so of course that would be his fear. Maybe we could have built up more of his fear. I guess we kind of did with the Steppen episode. All right, I guess this one's okay.
Well, yeah, but... oh, man. I guess I gotta give that one to you.
Then we get to Nynaeve. You'll hear their screams as they die, just like you heard your parents, and you'll do nothing to save them. Which would have been great to have been built up to, but we didn't have moments where we saw Nynaeve waking up from a nightmare where we could hear her parents screaming like in an echo, like, you know, in the background or something, you know, something to lead up to this is a fear of hers, that she's always afraid of the her loved ones being taken away from her in some violent incident. We didn't see that. Yeah, we've seen her aggressively hunting down the kids, you know, following them. I just want to protect them and take them home. But something was missing in her story to tell us that this is a big fear of hers, that she's going to fail to protect the kids. It says, you lost Matt and now you'll lose the others one by one till you have nothing and no one. This feels like they're trying to shove drama into Nynaeve that just hasn't really been built up to. I mean, why wasn't she talking a lot more about how we have to go back and get Matt? I mean, yes, she was the one at the gate who said, we have to open the gates, and then Egwene was like, no, we can't. But look, there are tricks that you use. I know I keep bringing this up. There are things that you do with body language from the actor and camera usage. You know, what shots are you getting to show that your character is thinking something and we know what they're thinking. And it just wasn't done so that we see that this is a big fear of hers, that she's going to fail to protect the group, the kids, that she has already failed Matt, and that she's going to be alone. That one really wasn't built up to, that she feels alone in the world if she doesn't protect these kids. I feel like this is the part where they're trying to shove something in to create sympathy towards Nynaeve, but it's totally ineffective because up until now, she has been very unlikable. She has been aggressively attacking other people around her with threats of things that she can't do, so it's kind of laughable. But we don't see this. I mean, we haven't seen this before. We haven't seen her being afraid of being alone. Maybe back in Edmund's Field, we should have seen that she lives this very lonely life. We should have seen her house, and it's just like, there's one narrow bed. There's one bowl and set and glass and set of silverware, like, so that there's only one person here. Like, she lives this lonely life, and she really clings to her job as a wisdom, being part of the community. That would have been great. And then for her to feel like she failed by allowing some stranger to come into town and swoop the kids away, that would have been better. But we didn't see that. And we didn't see up till now, like maybe in that conversation that she had with Lan on the hilltop where he was performing that water ritual for the 7 towers or whatever, it would have been nice if she brought up something like, I can tell that, you know, there's something about you, like you've lost your home too. Or maybe he says it. Maybe he's the observant one here. Like he sees her and he's like, if you're a wisdom, I don't know. Just there should have been a moment between, we should have had the Edmund's Field show her lonely life. And then somewhere between there and now, we should have seen that this is something that plagues her, that she will be alone and that her job of protecting the kids is her thing. But it wasn't conveyed because you're not inside the head of the character. You have to do other things. You have to do camera tricks. You have to have scenes with dialogue that hints at these things. And it didn't happen. So now it just feels like they're like, oh, feel sorry for her about being alone, which is a problem. Like, just so you know, she's worried about being alone in life. And we'll introduce that right now. Yeah, and then the voice says, you can't protect them, you can't. And you see Lan saying, no. And she screams and this shield appears around them and they're all able to get up and do stuff again. Well, this doesn't happen in the book. I mean, she hasn't shown that she can channel so far, right? Did I miss that? Okay, so she creates this bubble around them And then Moiraine uses this opportunity to open up the gate with the one power, and they all get out. Lan comes and grabs Nynaeve and drags her out too, and now they're safe. And everybody's shook by what the Machin Shin said to them. And I just have to say, that didn't seem that bad. Machin Shin was not as scary as I thought he was supposed to be. I literally thought he was going to like rip their soul out of them and they'd be like this mindless husk of evil that just wanders the earth afterwards, or maybe goes mad, because Machin Shin didn't actually get them in the book. At least I don't remember. Did he? Okay, so the Eye of the World is a day's walk beyond Fal Dara. In the book, I'm pretty sure it's a lot further than that. But anyway, so it's a day's walk beyond that. Why did they need to use a WayGate to get there if it was gonna be another day to get there? So like earlier when they were in the ways, she said, let's camp out because it's another day's walk to our gate. And then they wake up in the middle of the night because they're being attacked and they have to run. And they're like, we need to get somewhere out of here fast. Where's the gate to Fal Dara? Is it closer? Yeah, it's like right there. So they go to the WayGate to Fal Dara. They come out at Fal Dara and it's still another day to get to the Eye of the World. So they didn't save any time. Even if they took the WayGate to the Eye of the World, they wouldn't have saved any time. I guess they would have saved the danger of, you know, having to go through the blight and all those monsters that are attacking them, which I love some of those monsters. One of them reminded me of like a giant sea star with like tentacles coming out of it like this, and then I guess the tentacles were like hands. It's neat. Okay, then we meet Lord Assholagalmar in Fal Dara, and okay. Well, first of all, there was some poor editing that happened here. So he says, to what do we owe this pleasure? And she says, I'm here with a warning. And he says, let me guess. And she says, what? Like she started talking after he said, let me guess, and then stopped talking. It's just awkward. And he is not like this in the book. So basically, Assholagalmar is like, let me guess, my sister got anxious saying that we can't handle this Trolloc army that's building up in the, you know, and it's going to attack us. And so she clearly must have written to you guys and said like, you know, send help and that's why you're here, right? That's not how it is in the book. So in the book, he's like really excited that she's there because he's like, oh, thank God you're here, because just having one of you Aes Sedai with us would be like a huge help because we've got problems. And she's like, unfortunately, I'm not here to help you. And he's like, oh, it's okay. We'll be fine. We'll be fine. Like, we can do this. We can make this happen, even though we have no help from anybody and nobody will help us. Like, he even explains that, or maybe it's not him, maybe it's the sister who explains. Somebody explains that basically all the other kingdoms are so busy defending themselves at this point that they can't come and help them. And now it's like, I can do this by myself. I don't need anybody's help at all. I mean, it makes him look incompetent. Whereas before it looked like he was grateful to have the help, but he knew that he needed it. So we've turned Lord Assholagalmar into one of the adversaries for our main characters, even though he's not going to be, he's not really a blockade. He's just supposed to be this miserable person who looks down on the Aes Sedai, I guess, and is arrogant, and I know what I'm doing, but he's totally incompetent. Why? Yeah, so he basically goes like, yeah, I don't need your advice or your help or anything. Like, we know what we're doing. We have guarded against the blight for 1,000 years, and we've never needed you guys before. And Moiraine is like, I'm not here to advise you. I'm just here with a warning to let you know that the Dark One is moving his armies through the WayGates. And so maybe it would behoove you to have a group of men guarding the WayGate, right? And I'm just not seeing the benefit of doing this because it takes away a cost. It takes away a cost, a sacrifice that had to be made for the sake of getting the dragon to the Eye of the World. She is willing to let Fal Dara possibly fall because it's more important to get one of these kids to the Eye of the World to stop the dragon. Like, she feels bad about this. Now it's like, I'm not here for you and your people. I've got my own thing going. Like, we're now just diminishing her character. And I know it's meant to look like we're going to make him look so bad that she's going to look good. But the thing is that the thing that happened in the book didn't make her look bad. It made the mission look that important, that she knows exactly what's going on, what's at stake, and the protection of an entire kingdom of people or an entire city of people is less important to an Aes Sedai than what she has to do. Like, that's the sacrifice she's willing to make. It has taken the importance of the mission down a notch again. And it did it I think it was unintentional. I think that somehow this was supposed to they were supposed to create conflict, but why is it not enough conflict for Moiraine to be sort of broken? Not even, we could see something, like, okay, maybe she's not that way in the book, but actually we don't really know how she is at this point in the book because we're not in Moraine's head. It would have been nice to have seen, okay, she gets there and he's just like in the book, oh my gosh, like, thank God you're here. Like, we really could use some Aes Sedai help. Like, that's why you're here, right? And she goes, I'm sorry, I'm not. I have an important mission. And like, she's trying to be like, trying not to show emotion in this moment. I have an important mission. I'm not here to help you. I'm sorry. And the camera, again, can be used to show that she actually is affected by this decision in some way, that she feels bad, but I'm sorry, the thing that she knows that she has to do is very important. And you can even show that by where, like, maybe she spots some young people in the city and it makes her worry that, like, she's sending them off. Maybe she could even have that conversation with Lan. Maybe Lan can feel bad about it because these are his people, It would have been nice to have seen that there is a sacrifice being made that is hard to make. It is a difficult choice to make. Instead, they're making this choice for her to abandon Faldara seem easy. Like, fine, go die, you asshole. I'm just taking my kids to the eye of the world to stop the end of the world. Do whatever you want. I don't care. That's what the consequence is of turning this king guy into the a-hole that they have turned him into. Then we see Padan Fain saunter out of the WayGate. Okay, this is something that I didn't notice until I was editing. How the hell did Padan Fain get out of the WayGate? He can't channel, right? This would have been a more effective shot if we saw the kids being persistently chased by dark friends leading up to now. But I'll bet most people saw this and went like, who's that? Unless they were really watching close and noticed that he was in the crowd when Matt and Rand saw Logain the first time. But still, I don't care. Now, in the book, he was basically Gollum. He was insane. He was like a broken soul, but he had made this choice where he had an opportunity. He hated the way that the Dark One was treating him, and he had a chance to break away from him, and he did. And now he has come to Faldara to warn them, and that's not what he seems to be up to in the show. And I see consequences of this in the future. When you change things so much this early in the story, as I said before, the butterfly effect of what it will change is going to be catastrophic. It's going to be huge. This is a bad choice. I don't even know much about the Padan Fain character after book 1, but I'll tell you what, I can tell that making him not be this insane, broken creature at this point in the show is going to be problematic. Okay, then we've got Moiraine and I forget what her name is. What is her name? Amelisa. They are headed towards her room and they're having this conversation where Moiraine says, is Min still in the city? So now Min is a real character from the books. She's much earlier though. She is in a town that starts with a D and I can't remember the name of it, but it doesn't really matter. So she's in this other town. It's like one of the first places that Moiraine takes all of the kids to out after they leave Edmund's Field. And it's like this barmaid at this inn, and she's very discreet about anything special about Min. It's actually Min who blows her cover to Matt, telling him like she sees things. And yeah, sometimes Moiraine asks me about the things that I see, and then she explains the things that she sees. Now here, it seems like lots of people know that Min is a seer. At least Moiraine knows, and Amelisa knows. I thought it was kind of a secret, but I guess it isn't. So do all the Aes Sedai know about this? But Amelisa is not an Aes Sedai, apparently. But yeah, so then she goes, oh, why do you want to see the seer? And she goes, well, because why not? And she goes, my philosophy is, well, you know, my brother, though, begs to differ. Like, they want to hammer home that the brother is an asshole and that he thinks he knows everything. Anyway, so Moiraine and Amelisa are talking, and Amelisa basically says, you know, I didn't get any word from the tower that you're coming here. So he's hinting that she realizes that this was a secret mission that Moiraine is on. And Moiraine is like, look, I know that, you know, you wanted to be an Aes Sedai, but, you know, you didn't have the power. But, you know, I hope that I can still trust your discretion. Like, in this whole my secret mission thing. Amelisa kind of says, you know, my discretion is, you know, I will be discreet, but my allegiance is with the city. So she's basically saying, like, I think that you want me to keep this secret from the rest of the city. Yeah. So this is why that whole check the butterfly effect is important here, because everybody knows what's going on. And in book two, I'm on chapter 10, and they're hanging out with the Faldar people. They go on a journey with the Faldarans. I don't know how you say Faldarians? Faldarans. And I just have to say, I'm not really a fan of Amelisa's outfit. It's weird. I mean, if you're gonna draw from, like, East Asian wardrobe, like they did for the king guy, Agelmar, where did this come from? Where did Amelisa's outfit come from? I mean, she could have had, there's so many beautiful options that there could have been, I don't know what. She looks like she's wearing like a 1990 prom dress with a train and some sort of weird dog cone around her head. I mean, this is my personal tastes in costuming. Maybe I'm sure it's fine. They can do whatever they want, but, you know, because it's a fantasy. At least it doesn't look like something people would wear today. Unless they were, like, on a runway in New York for, like, what is that, like, fashion week? You know, it's a couture work of art that no one would ever really wear in any situation. And this is where Moiraine tells Amelisa, I need you to send a message to the White Tower that they gotta find a man. They need to find Mat Cawthon. And you need to send this message to the Red Aja. She's putting a hit out on Mat. Is that... I haven't seen that in book 2 yet. I have not seen the Red Aja hunting down Mat. As a matter of fact, everybody sends Mat on, like, this mission where the knife has been stolen and the horn has been stolen. We're gonna go look for the horn and the knife, and you're the only one who can handle the knife. Because for some reason, when you've got the knife, it doesn't spread to other people, and you don't die when you hold it. That's why we need you to come with us. And he's talked about it. He's talked about, yeah, I guess I have to be the one to go and get this knife thing. And he wants it. He's like, he craves it. Like, he wants to go and get it. I have a feeling this is going to affect things majorly in the future, unless there's some point further along in the story when we see that Mat actually is being hunted by the Red Aja. But the thing is the Amyrlin Seat sent everybody on this mission. The Amyrlin Seat was the one who, and her Aja, all the Aes Sedai ladies were like, yes, you guys should go with these other Faldara guys on this hunt to go and find the horn and the knife. Like, you should all go and do that, like, and bring Mat. Like, so do the Red Aja go of their own accord, like a secret mission or something? I don't know. I don't know what they're doing. This just seems like a bad idea. On its own, I suppose it's fine. Like, okay, now let's separate the book from the show, just the show. Is it okay? Yes, but it also makes Moiraine look more like she just wants to kill everybody who's not the dragon. Like, if Mat is not the dragon, why kill him? Is this what she's going to do as soon as everybody figures out that Rand is the dragon? Is she going to go and kill everybody else because they weren't the dragon? Like, what is the reason to kill Mat? I just don't see what the point is. And that's what the Red Aja are going to do. Okay, maybe they won't kill him, but you know what they're going to do to him is as good as kill him, right? Then they're out walking around in Faldara, and I am happy to say this looks like they shot this on location somewhere. This wall looks real. The backdrop of the big structure looks real. So Please, fantasy show producers, find ways to dress real life locations to fit your show. It looks so much better than the crap you build. And then Egwene notices that there's something up with Rand. She thinks that he's upset about how they've abandoned Mat. And she says, is it the wind? Whatever you heard in the wind? Like, whatever it said, it's not true. Remember that. Now remember, the thing that the wind said was that Egwene will never love you as much as you love her. But it also said, you are the dragon reborn. I'm thinking, hoping rather, that's what's bothering Rand. But all it takes is Egwene saying, it's not true, and he just seems to brush it aside. We didn't see him worrying about any of the other things that lead to him believing that he's the dragon until, like, literally the night, like, he starts thinking about it, and like an hour later, he's like, I'm the dragon. No build-up to that revelation. And then Perrin sees Padan Fain and says, I could have just sworn I saw him walk by. And Nynaeve is like, the peddler? He's dead. He died in the Trolloc attack back in Edmund's Field. How does she know? She wasn't there. She was busy getting dragged off to the pond cave place. Speaking of which, I don't think we're going to get that scene that they had in the trailer, which was Egwene coming out of the water from that pond covered in that paint, right? I thought that was a very beautiful image. I'll bet you that was supposed to be her, like, part of her ceremony, and they just cut it and didn't put it in, but I wanted that scene. That was the most visually interesting thing about the teaser and the trailer. They get to the bar where Min works, and the moment Moiraine walks in, everyone knows she's an Aes Sedai, or who she is, and they don't seem to like her. They're like, what is she doing here? Why do they hate her? They didn't have people hating Aes Sedai earlier in the series, but here they do. I don't understand the point of this. So in the book, the people in Edmund's Field, like, despised the Aes Sedai, thought that they were evil. But when they get to Faldara, everybody there's like, oh, thank God you're here. Like, we love you guys because you help us to defend against the Blight. What? I'm not seeing what the purpose of this switcheroony is. Again, this takes conflict away and replaces it with conflict that means less. So everybody there loves Moiraine and we're so happy you're here. Oh my gosh, like, you're gonna save us. Just imagine the turmoil of, I can't save you guys. I have something else that's more important than your lives that I have to do. Like, that is real conflict. And here you just get a bunch of rude people and her being like, whatever, I'm just gonna do my own thing. But so, okay, then we get this little conversation with Rand and Perrin and Egwene, where Rand is like, they're talking about the Tuatha Aunt.
What are they doing now?
You know what? I f***ing hate you.
And Perrin says, the way of the leaf is very simple. Do no violence. You know, if the whole world followed this, we'd be much better off. But wasn't, like, the last thing that Aram said to him is that violence is a part of life and the way of the leaf embraces that too? It's about accepting it. Consistency, please. And this has undone a lesson that Perrin is supposed to have. Like, he's supposed to be, like, he isn't supposed to be leaning towards this at this point. He's supposed to be in conflict with it. Like, I have this potential for violence, this capability to create massive destruction with my body. And then he's faced with this, you know, passivism. And he has to accept the violent part of him. Like, you, in the book, you can see that's where it's going. It's going that you need to accept that sometimes the thing that you don't want to do is the thing that you have to do. It's the better thing to do. Even, it's like a sacrifice that you need to make. It's like, whatever. I'm trying to make sense of things that I don't think the writers of the show put thought into so that it makes sense. So it's like they wrote an equation, like 2 + 2 = 6. And I'm sitting here trying to figure out how they got there. But there is no way. There's no logic. Okay, now we make Moiraine look like just a bad person. Like, she's just mean. She's cruel. Okay, so then Moiraine talks to Min and says, tell me what you see with the kids, like, because she can see the images around people and it always comes true, right? And she's basically, Min is like, this is super invasive. Like, this is my private life. Like, you coming here and asking me, like, it's going to reveal that I have this gift, that I'm a seer. Like, do Do the kids know who I am? And Moiraine is like, oh no, they don't know who you are. And like, thanks to the Aes Sedai, nobody knows what you're capable of. Could you imagine if people knew that you're a seer? Like, you'd be hounded all day long, or worse. Like, basically, I mean, she's threatening Min. She's threatening her, you better help me, or I'm going to out you and your life is going to be miserable. Why would they have Moiraine do this? In the book, Min and Moiraine, I seem to recall a very amicable relationship between the two of them. Like, Min is like, oh yeah, she sometimes come here and she asks me questions about the things that I see and stuff. You know, she's very nice. Why make her mean here? Why make her threaten Min? I don't get this. Why are you making her bad? You're making... So what happened was the show has clearly taken Moiraine and said she is the top MC. Like, we're going to follow her story, right? But now they've made her more unlikable. Like, in the book, there's kind of these questions, like, what is her motive? I mean, we see her protecting the kids and doing good things mostly, but we occasionally see little hints of, like, she will do brutal things if that's what it takes to do the greater, more important thing. For instance, like, not helping the Faldarans, having compassion for them, and like, I will help you, I'll do what I can to help you, because she needs to get these kids to the eye of the world. Like, that sacrifice, like, that, why are we making her bad? Like, why take a character who is a kind of a side character? She's one of the main characters, but she is not the main character, right? Why take her and say, we're going to make you the MC, but now we're going to make you into a really mean person. We're going to have you threatening people that they better give you what you want or you're going to torture them to death. And we're going to set up opportunities for you to not have to struggle with, you know, possibly abandoning other people. We're just going to make it really easy for you to abandon other people. And we're going to have you put a hit out on a kid who didn't do anything wrong except leave. Oh, they are making Moiraine a bad guy. And it makes no sense. Like, wouldn't you want her to be more likable? No, we're going to make her more unlikable. We're going to make her the main character and unlikable. We're going to create that. That's smart. That is real smart business, right? Then this is awkward. Okay, so Moiraine can't see what Min can see. And Min says, I see the big brooding one, and Moiraine goes, they're both big and they're both brooding. And she goes, well, the one on the left, he's got yellow eyes and blood running down his chin, and the other one is rocking a baby. And Moraine's like, whose baby? And he's like, I don't know, it looks like any other baby. And then Moiraine says, what about the girls? And she looks at them and she says, white flame and a ring of gold. I don't know. But Moiraine doesn't pressure her to, like, which one are you talking about? Which one has the white flame and which one has the ring of gold? Because that's what the writers wanted the audience to be asking, like, oh, which one? But the thing is it's inconsistent with their character in this moment. Moiraine was very specific. I need to know which boy you're talking about because they're both tall and they're both brooding, or big and they're both brooding. And she specifies the one on the left. So when she says about the girls, she doesn't tell you which one has the white flame. It was so stupid. Now, in the book, they just tell you. She just tells you who she... Like, this book. Min is talking to Rand, and he's like, really, what do you see when you look at us? And she just tells them, I see this with you, I see this with that one, I see this with that one, I see this with that one. And she even says, I see 7 towers and something with... and a baby being given a sword with Lan, and just different things, right? I think that's what she saw with Lan. This is like the writers are trying to force a mystery on the audience, but in order to do that, they had to break consistency with one of their characters. Consistency within a conversation, literally within like 3 lines of dialogue. This is cheating at the most juvenile level. You can't even be clever with how you're doing this. Like, why not, if you wanted it to be a mystery, have Moiraine saying which one, and then we zoom over to the girls, and we're now in the girls' perspective, seeing them talking. We can't see Moiraine talking to... We can see Moiraine talking to Min, but we don't know what they're saying, like, because now Moiraine is getting the specifics on which one was the ring of gold, which one was the white flame. That would have been a better way to do this, even though the whole thing is just stupid. Then she says, I see that all 4 of them are linked. I see sparks of light trying to fill the shadows and the shadows trying to swallow the sparks. Now in this moment, this is what's in the book, but Tom Marilyn is there too. And it's part of the reason why Moiraine is like, Tom's part of our gang, like part of our group. And she informs the kids at this point in Faldara that she actually thinks Tom's still alive. Was that in Faldara or was that in the Ways? Or maybe it was when they're in the Blight. Either way, it's at some point she tells them, I think Tom's alive. And it's because of this moment. So that was good in the book because then it's like, oh, so we had a hint that he isn't really dead. Like, you know, you've left little indicators that he's still going to be alive and still be important later on in the story. In the show, though, he shows up while Moiraine's not around, and then he's gone while Moiraine is not around. And so when he shows up again later, we're going to be like, anybody who didn't read the books is going to be like, did they just kill this character and then have him come back, like, because they wanted him to? It's going to feel like that because you didn't build up to it. You didn't leave little hints. You didn't have foreshadowing that he's still alive because he still has something important to do coming up. Okay, whatever. And then at the very end, Min says that she has a vision of Moiraine, too. She sees the Amyrlin seat in full regalia. She is going to be your downfall. I don't recall this being in the book. I might have just missed it. That happens. I'm reading as fast as I can. Well, I'm listening as fast as I can. Okay. So I'm just gonna... I'm just gonna make a prediction here that when she says, I see the full, the Amyrlin seat in her full regalia, it's either... Siuan has gone bad in some way, which would mean that my earlier suspicion when it said that, she's having dreams about the Dark One and stuff, like I was like, oh, is she being attacked by the Dark One? Like, is he gonna work his way into her and then it turns bad? So either that, or she dies, Siuan dies, and Liandrin becomes the new Amyrlin seat, and that is the Amyrlin seat in full regalia, because she doesn't say, I see the Amyrlin seat, Siuan, in full regalia. She just says the Amyrlin seat in full regalia. Like, this is, and it's fine, I guess. I'm very conscientious of word choice. And so for me, that's a big hint that it's one of those two things. Then we have the useless exchange of, shh, she's coming, and so they come back in and they go,
We leave tomorrow at sunrise.
Who was she?
A woman I've known since she was young.
Stop lying to us.
You forget, girl, that I cannot lie.
I can't lie!
I don't know why they had to have this happen again. Like, why? To remind the audience that she cannot lie. And so again, they've used Nynaeve as the character that they will have do the stupid thing. They'll have her be the one who looks like more of a jerk or looks more stupid so that we can get some information out to people, because we need to remind the audience that the Aes Sedai cannot lie. So that in this next part where she talks about how one of them is going to, everybody's going to die except for the dragon, we'll be like, oh, dang, snap, she can't lie. Even though we've already had Siuan say maybe that won't be the case. Yeah, so then she goes, I was hoping to save you guys. I don't want any of you to die, but whichever one of you goes to the Eye of the World and is not the dragon, you're going to die, because two forces of nature are basically going to grind you into dust.
Which one of us is it? She didn't know. And so tomorrow I will take all of you to the Eye, knowing that 3 of you will not return.
Now, I do find this interesting. If the Aes Sedai cannot lie, I guess they can lie if they think it's true. Is that right? Or is this something that they have changed? Because obviously it seems like nobody goes to the Eye of the World except for Moiraine and Rand in the end. So have they changed the rules that nobody could have survived if they went with him? I wonder what that is going to affect further down the line of the butterfly effect. But then Perrin says, well, wait a minute, isn't there a chance that Matt's the dragon? Like, that we survive and that you're wrong? And Moiraine goes, it's easy to use doubt as a crutch, but doubt is the first step towards surrender to the dark. But she's been doubting. Like, wasn't that a big thing in the previous episode where she reveals to Siuan that she's been doubting, even though we didn't see any lead up to this beforehand? No comment. And she says, look, I didn't choose this path any more for myself than you did. Well, the kids did choose. They chose to go with you into the ways, and clearly it wasn't, they could choose not to, because Matt chose not to. And then Nynaeve says, well, you've made your choice, but we'll make our own. Powerful as you are, I don't think that you can drag the four of us there against our will.
You sure about that?
Well, I mean, you guys couldn't even open a WayGate. How are you going to stop an Aes Sedai from dragging you there? And then Moiraine says, running and hiding won't save you from the weaving of the pattern. So even if they choose not to go, that'll still be part of the pattern. This conversation is completely pointless. She shouldn't even have to tell them this. She should be like, well, whatever they choose, it'll still be the weaving of the pattern. Which doesn't make sense then why she would send out a hit on Matt. So she leaves them to make their decision on their own. Then Rand says, nothing an Aes Sedai says is optional. She'll force us if she wants to. And then, of course, Nynaeve goes, well, let her try. Nothing's optional. Matt proved that wrong. Clearly it is optional. You don't have to go. This is the most, contrived, oh no, we have this horrible, difficult choice to make tonight. What are we gonna do?
Get drunk before everything closes.
But she just said no matter what you do, that's the way it is. Nynaeve's arrogance. Oh man, she's been destroyed. She's destroyed. I just want to be clear that I like all of the actors. All the actors. They're all doing good jobs, including the Nynaeve gal. But damn, they're making some of these characters just so unlikable, and it's not the actors' fault. It is clearly the writers' fault. And I do hope that if this show gets canceled, these actors are able to go on and have a second chance at their big break, because this should have been their big break. Before I go into this further, this is the part where I want to discuss something that I left out of an earlier video. I don't remember which one it was, but it was about the chemistry of the characters, the Edmund's Field characters, and how I just don't feel it. So there's supposed to be a bond between them where they all feel like family, right? Where there's a closeness there. Now, we've had little glimpses of hints at it, but it should have been pretty strong from the start, and I'm just not getting it. And I wish I could pinpoint exactly what went wrong. I think it's because they've tried to push in conflict before we see the development of the reason for this conflict. Like the whole Perrin and Egwene bond was spoiled by, we see Perrin apparently is married and killed his wife, and he also was attracted to Egwene, I guess, and that's possibly a factor in his guilt. Then we have Matt being supported by his friends, but why is he being supported by his friends? It's because he is a shit kid who's a gambler and wastes his money, and he's also a thief who takes stuff from people who come and visit the town or who are his fellow neighbors. And then Rand and Egwene are already banging, but they have a toxic relationship. So when I see them all together, I don't really genuinely feel like they are that close. And I don't think this is a the actors don't have chemistry. I think that there was something missing in the storytelling prior to this that didn't establish this closeness. Like, there was always this conflict in there. There was always this, and I know that people think that, you have to have conflict, otherwise there's no progression. But if you never see an idyllic state that you would want to return to, you don't root for the conflict to be resolved so that they can be back together again. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong about this. I just don't feel like the Edmund's Field characters are actually that close. They feel like strangers that are forced into these same rooms with each other, and they have to interact with each other, but they aren't really besties. They aren't really practically siblings who grew up as neighbors in a very small rural town. I just don't buy it. One of the things you could have done to fix this would have been when they were traveling with Moiraine and Lan in the second episode before they all got separated was really have them not arguing with each other, but looking out for each other all the time. Like, we got to stick together because we don't know much about these guys. And that happened in the book. In the book, whenever there was trouble, the first thing that the kids were thinking of were each other, not Lan and Moiraine. Like, we were in Rand's head all the way up until right after they leave Shadar Logoth. And you could see in his head, well, you didn't have to see it, you read it, that he was worried, oh no, what about Egwene? And where's Mat and Perrin? Like, I gotta find them. He wasn't thinking about, like, trying to get to Moiraine, and he was, like, very determined to find them. And that's what they were all thinking too. When you finally get into the other characters' heads, they were like, I gotta find the others. Like, that's my family. We're safer together like this. And that wasn't really portrayed well in the show because we had so much conflict, I think, with them before. Just imagine how nice it would have been to have them sitting around the campfire while Moiraine and Lan are off doing their own thing. And they're like, we got to stick together. Like, you know, and they're not arguing with each other. They're not trying to put blame on each other for the drama that was stirred up before they went out. They were besties before and they're besties now. And they have their little bickering, but it's not like anything major. Like,
I was attracted to you, but I killed my wife, and now I think maybe I did that because I was in love with you the whole time.
But yeah, so I don't feel this camaraderie that I should be feeling, in short. This is evidence of a lack of distinct roles among the Edmondsfield characters. And I mentioned this before. We should know who is the doubter, who is the wise one, who is the fiery, feisty one, who's the stubborn one. That helps us, the audience, feel like these characters are not only solidly understood and solidly developed on their own, but they're also part of the Edmondsfield people machine, and it functions in a very specific way, a logical way, and we can see how each character has a place in that function. But yeah, they're just jumping all over the place as far as, you know, who's the wise one in this scenario? Who's the cowardly one? Who's the stubborn one? Who's the a-hole one? Like, they keep flip-flopping their roles. So here we have more conflict again. Like, we should be seeing them as a group, like, just sunken with this, what do we do? But instead they're arguing. You've got Rand stating the obvious, or somewhat, the obviously not true, that, you know, we have no choice because whatever Aes Sedai says, we have to do it and she'll force us. And then you've got Nynaeve saying, like, yeah, whatever, let her try. And then you've got Egwene saying, you know what, we left Edmondsfield to protect our families. That's what we were doing then, you know, and that's what we're still doing now, no matter what the cost. And then Nynaeve says Moiraine, why do you always believe everything that she says? Why do you instantly think that it's real? Why does Nynaeve think this? Nynaeve wasn't with them on the journey where Egwene was believing everything that Moiraine was saying. Remember that argument that they had in episode 2 where Rand was like, why do you believe her everything that she says? Nynaeve wasn't present for that. And as long as we have seen Egwene and Nynaeve and Moiraine in the same scenes together, we have never once seen Egwene, like, siding with Moiraine. Never once. Oh, okay, wait. I guess in the ways we saw it kind of once, but she wasn't really siding with Moiraine. She was just stating the obvious. How are we going to open the WayGate? We don't know how to channel at all. And it was Perrin who said, we should go with them, with Moiraine and Lan, because if we just sit here, we're just going to die. And then Nynaeve goes on saying, like, how can you even believe this prophecy? We only believe it because she believes it. Like, I thought that they do live in a magical world, right, where these things happen. I mean, Nynaeve can hear voices in the wind. She can hear the wind. That's not a magical thing. And Egwene reminds them that she can't lie. Moiraine can't lie. But then Rand says, yeah, but she can mislead us. And he specifies, like, you know, do you think that she just learned today that we're all going to die if we go? Like, oh, she's been keeping this secret from us all this time? This is when Nynaeve says, even if she thinks that she's telling the truth, she could be wrong. So an Aes Sedai can say something that isn't true as long as they think that it is true. I guess that's the rule of the magic here. It seems like it's a magical thing that they can't lie, right? I'm guessing it has something to do with the oath rod or whatever. So it has to be the intent. It has to be, I intentionally speak an untruth. Yeah, and then Egwene goes, I'm not going with her because I think that she's right or whatever. I want to go because even if there's a chance that she's right, I think that it's worth it. And then she calls out Nynaeve for being very immature about all of this, saying, you're a wisdom. Like, you should have been the one thinking what I'm thinking. But because Moiraine is here, you've decided that we're not doing this. It certainly doesn't make Nynaeve look very good to be called out by somebody who's younger than her, especially if she's supposed to be the wisdom. She wants everybody to know that she is the wisdom, that she is the one that people should be respecting for her knowledge and experience in the world and her advice and whatever. And here she's being called out for being very immature by a kid. And she has to be reminded not to let her pride stop her from doing what she knows is right. Like, Nynaeve. And then Rand says, we've lost too many people already. I can't lose anyone else in this room. I guess he's thinking about Matt because his dad lived and we didn't see him, I guess he's maybe thinking about Perrin's wife, even though nobody except Egwene has really showed any sympathy towards him about that. And Perrin is the voice of doubt once again. Like, what if none of us are the dragon? And they've already had this discussion. They've already talked about the whole doubt thing. What if it's Matt? So the reason he is saying this is because the writers wanted us to get to this argument that's going to happen between Rand and Egwene, where she scoffs at the idea that the dragon might be Matt. So Rand can be like, what? Why couldn't it be Matt? And Egwene couldn't look like more of a bitch turning around and why? And then he goes, you've never thought much of him, have you? You've never given him a chance. And I'm just going, at what point? See, this is again, we didn't see this connection between the friends beforehand. We didn't see what their relationships with each other were like before all of this, because we never saw them interacting and talking about each other and trying to be there for each other in a way that would, at what point have we seen Egwene shit-talking Matt that would lead Rand to this point, in a natural, well set up way? We haven't seen it at all. Instead, we saw one instance of it at the beginning of this episode, which makes it feel like it was a last second thought. Okay, we're doing an episode and we're gonna have a fight between Rand and Egwene. What should it be about? Let's make it about Matt. Okay. We better film a scene where we have Egwene say, Matt abandoned us. Yes, let's do that. And you know what? We can also put in that bit about Machin Shin that was kind of awkward in another scene later, so we can cut that out. Or, maybe we forgot it. That's what happened. And Rand goes you've never really got to know him. So you don't know how hard he's had it. I'm sorry, but her reaction turning around and going ugh. She didn't say that, but that's what her body language was saying. This was bad on the director because this was a very obvious, the actress conveyed very specifically that, yes, she does not think very highly of Matt. She does not think that he is the dragon. She thinks that he was corrupt. But Rand is trying to say, you never got to know him. So if she never got to know him, why would she say this? And we never saw her interacting with Matt, really, with the exception of one discussion in front of the campfire after Moiraine had already taken them on this journey. What? That's not enough for us to deduce that she thinks lowly of him. What was that conversation about at that point? I don't know. Maybe I need to rewatch that scene. I'm not going to do it now because I don't think that the writers put that much thought into it, so I doubt that that's what it was supposed to lead you to this. No, it wasn't. It's fantastic. She goes, he left us. He probably went back to Tarvalon for that stupid dagger. We didn't see her or any of them interacting with Matt in a way that showed Matt was craving the dagger, thinking about it, talking about it, her noticing him, reaching into his pocket, but it's not there. But the writers, I guarantee, really, really wanted this exchange.
About that!
Us.
Well, I guess you're the expert on that, aren't you?
What is that supposed to mean?
You're the only one who's ever really loved me.
I I don't know, you left me at the beginning of this whole series, so that probably. And then when I wanted to try and move on, you like forced yourself back on me, and I gave in because I wanted you to stay. And Rand says, you're the only one who's ever really left me. So that makes her, it's just an awkward line. You're the only one who's ever left me. First of all, that's a thing you say in private because it's like insinuating that this is a private conversation between you and me. I'm just talking about you and me now. You weren't proving why she's the expert on leaving. And then Perrin jumps in to defend her. Don't speak to her like that. And in this case, I'm on Rand's side. So Perrin is like, you owe her an apology. And Rand goes, for what? The truth? I'm like, yeah. No, she Egwene should have apologized to him for breaking up with him and then changing her mind. And then Nynaeve goes,
just stop. I am so tired of you two fighting over her like she's something you can win.
At what point in this exchange was that a fight for her like somebody you can win? We've never seen them fighting over her. Ever. Not once has Rand and Perrin fought each other, argued with each other. So why would she say, I'm sick of you two fighting over her? What the hell was that? You know why they put this in here is because they wanted it out in the open that Perrin likes Egwene, even though we haven't seen that built up to. That's why this had to happen. And Nynaeve, not being intelligent again with how she conducts herself, not being wise, is the vehicle by which they brought this out. When you need information to come out, just turn Nynaeve into an idiot or a bitch, and there you go. And then Rand starts laughing, and Perrin's like, what's so funny? He's like, this, it's been right in front of me this whole time. When? I like that he says I never even noticed because, yeah, nobody noticed. There was zero chemistry between Perrin and Egwene, and when Rand was around, Perrin was not around either. Like, they should have shown when the three of them are together, we're seeing Perrin and Egwene have like this new relationship. They seem to be closer in some way. And before that, we should have seen Rand noticing that Perrin sure does spend a lot of time hanging out with Egwene, or, he comes over her and does nice things for her and stuff, like something like that.
The day you proposed to Layla, that was the day Egwene and I got together.
How is that like an indicator? I'm missing the connection between the day you proposed to your wife is the same day that me and Egwene got together. Okay. Nice little tidbit. But how is that, like, how is my proposing to Layla and then you guys getting together, how does that mean that I liked Egwene? I don't know. And then Perrin, like, gets right up in Rand's face saying, like, the only woman I've ever loved is my wife, which is believable because we haven't seen anything from him towards Egwene at all since episode 1. There was literally one scene at the very beginning where we saw him looking at Egwene, but he doesn't even go over and talk to her. He goes off to his wife. And since then, nothing from him. And from Egwene, all we've seen is her being compassionate towards, his struggle, whatever. But okay, anyway, now he's like, he comes right up to Rand and they're like nose to nose, right? And he was like, the only woman I've ever loved is my wife. This looks so awkward. Don't do this. Who does this in real life? Nobody does this in real life. This is just weird. I don't care if it looks good on camera. Don't do this. I was half expecting one of them to wrap their arms around the other and like, is this turning you on like it is turning me on? They're all acting like children, and then Rand bows out and walks away. And Nynaeve, like, I didn't mean to cause so many problems. So, of course you didn't, Nynaeve. The writers just needed this to happen for some reason, and they decided to use you. And then we did see Nynaeve pull her braid, which she does a lot in the book, I guess. I mean, it wasn't so obvious to me, but apparently the further along you get in the series, the more she does it, and so at least that's what I'm seeing in the comments. Going like, there's not nearly enough braid pulling. Well, here she did it. There you go. Then we've got Lan and Moiraine on the balcony, and Lan says, don't worry, they're gonna come. And she's like, will they really? And he's like, well, you've given them a semblance of a choice. So apparently they were both aware that they were letting them think that they have a choice in this, but they know that they're not gonna, they'll all come because they know that they don't really have a choice.
Wait, if you destroyed Div in the past, then he won't ever be your enemy. Then you won't have to send a robot back to destroy him, and then he will be your enemy, so then you will have to send a robot back!
And then it seems like we go into info dump for some reason. So Moiraine says, the smell here brings up memories of the past. I think of the night that we met. And she says, I feel like I've taken everything from you and more. And Lan says, well, you haven't taken anything from me. And now I was under the impression that the warders become warders by choice. Like everybody, all the warriors know that being a warder is like the pinnacle of, like they are basically legendary heroes, right? So you choose to become a warder. You hope, you aspire to be a warder. So he would be one by choice. And we know that part of it is his own past, is that he's on this sort of, not mission, I guess, I don't know. But he's like, his whole life is about continuing the mission of his lost kingdom, which was to prevent the Dark One from escaping his prison, I think. It's slightly unclear. But how is this Moiraine took that from him? So I don't get where she's coming from, and I'm sympathizing with Lan being confused. But yeah, she says that there's more to life than her and this mission. I feel like she's implying that she feels like she has taken, like that because of her, Lan can't have any romantic other interests. Now, this would make sense in the book because actually it's after they've already taken off into the Blight that you first hear about it. But either way, at this point in the book, there would have been hints, or there should have been in the book, really wasn't. That's my big complaint about the book here at this point, is that we didn't really see a whole lot of the building up of the relationship between Nynaeve and Lan, to the point that they sort of argue about, like, well, we can't really be together because I don't have any, thing to offer you. Whatever. It would make sense if this conversation in the show happened in the book, because it would be like, I see that you want to be with Nynaeve, but you are resisting because you feel like you have nothing to offer her because you basically belong to me. That would make more sense. And he says, before you, I had nothing to live for and nothing to die for, and you have given me both. But I don't know. From his history that I know in the book, it seemed to me like he would have found something to do. Like he would have remained maybe in Faldara and become like a war general who protects the world. I don't know. But yeah, so she suggests that there are people that he might know in the city that he would want to go and see one last time before certain death at the Eye, because everybody but the dragon is going to die. And then Moiraine says,
I like her, The wisdom.
That's a false. No, what I
You just lied.
You forget, girl, that I cannot lie.
And at what point did Nynaeve say or do anything that was likable? Especially to you, Moiraine. She hates your guts. The next 8 minutes are a bit different, less critique and more reaction. I wasn't sure about including this, but my family insisted people would like it. So Lan goes off into the city, and Nynaeve must have seen him leaving the castle, fortress thing, whatever, and been like, I'm gonna follow him. She's stalking him.
Hello.
Okay, so okay, yeah, I forgot this is so great. So she goes to this is I'm crying. Okay, this is so bad. Okay, so she's spying on Lan, And he goes in to meet this family and he's having dinner with them. He's got a bowl of noodles and you see he totally knows she's right outside the window and she's watching. And then she goes, oh, well, you know, he looked over towards the window. I better get out of here. And so she's like ready to go. And there's Lan. He goes, hello. I have to watch it again. It's so good. Ow. Oh my gosh. I'm crying. Oh my gosh, this is so good.
Hello.
Hello.
I was just following me.
Oh. Hello. Ow. Oh no. Oh my gosh. Hello. It's probably not that funny, but I think it's so funny. Oh boy. Whew. I need to take a break for a second. Hello. This is by far the most ridiculous thing that has happened yet. This would be a good one to act out. He teleported from the inside of that building to right next to her in like 2 seconds.
Hello.
As far as I know, he does not have some magical ability to teleport or transport himself like instantaneously like that. And then for him to just say, hello.
Hello.
Hello there.
Whew, okay. I need to take a second because I cannot continue. Oh my gosh. So I laughed so hard, I cried and cried away some of my makeup. I had to fix that. I mean, watching this the first time, this did not strike me as funny as it did just now. This was freaking comedy gold. Beautifully executed by everyone involved. Yeah, and he just caught her doing something very embarrassing. And what he finds it charming. And he goes, "You just gonna stand there, or do you plan to come in?" Every line delivered so dramatically and like in his gravelly voice, you know, and she's like, oh good, thank you. Which goes completely against her character up until now. So he brings Nynaeve back in, and I'm sorry, nobody at the table was like, when did you get outside? How'd you do that? And then you have some very awkward, oh my gosh, she is beautiful. I hadn't noticed. This is starting to get so cringy. I don't know if I can even watch, like, and yeah, there's nothing sexier than seeing a full-grown man who knows how to handle children. This is like one of the classic ways to like make a warrior or like just any man in general like look sexy is like, okay, well, make him good with kids, really good with kids, yes. Nynaeve's ovaries are like activating right now. And the funny thing is that Lan gives her this doofy, like, see, I'm good with kids look. But we get the nice walk back to their bedrooms. You gotta make this is like, okay guys, we need them to bang, so like we gotta be heavy on the sexual tension, except it just feels like it was forced on us. So it doesn't feel sexy at all. It just feels like, oh, this is so awkward. They have had not one drop of chemistry before this moment. They had like one conversation on the hill when he was doing the little ritual thing. That's it. That was it. From that to banging. And then Nynaeve goes, thank you for including me tonight. Okay, so first of all, I think they're like trying to continue this whole thing where like she feels alone, but we didn't build up to that at all, so it doesn't really matter, whatever, okay. But then he goes, well, you didn't really give me a choice. When did she not give you a choice? She was walking away and you said, well, are you going to come in? She didn't force herself on him. Oh my gosh, I can't. Oh no, it's the hungry eyes. Hungry eyes.
Good night.
Oh wait, he's taking his clothes off. I definitely want these.
Nice.
No, I've changed my mind. I want these again. Oh yes, the sexual tension is just so palpable. Oh my gosh, it's so cringe. Oh wait, here we go. Yes, touch him all over. There is no chemistry between these two. I mean, God bless the actors for milking this one moment where they were given the opportunity to create sexual tension. I mean, they did a good job, I think. It's unfortunate that I don't believe a drop of it. Thanks for watching. I hope it wasn't boring. Now, back to the usual. Okay, now we're back to Rand. Let's see, shooting arrows. And Egwene, oh boy, okay, now we're gonna make Egwene look terrible. I waited in my room for an hour for you to come and apologize. And then he says, I know that there's nothing between you and Perrin. And she goes, of course there's. He got upset and stormed away for no reason. She says that the real problem is that I don't like that you thought that I wouldn't, you know, that I don't like Matt, basically, that I wouldn't fight for him or die for him. And Rand goes, well, I was scared. And then he says, I don't want to lose you. Are we jumping back to the part where we were talking about Perrin and her? But you said you didn't believe that? So, or is he talking about them dying at the eye of the world? Again, a line that they shoved in here, and they're like, however we can get him to say this line, we're going to get him to say it. But they didn't actually get him to say it. They just shoved it in the middle of their conversation. The flow here is non-existent. And then Egwene says, yeah, I think that Moiraine is wrong, that we're all going to live. Like, why didn't she state this earlier? Why? Well, before she was defending, like, if we die, it's worth it. But now she's all of a sudden going like, oh, we're not going to die. We're going to live. They're not being consistent with what their characters believe and what they're fighting for. And then he tells her, like, you can't ignore this power in you. You need to go to the White Tower and become what you've always wanted to be. You know, become an Aes Sedai, blah, blah, blah. And she starts crying like, oh, I can't believe, like, you're acknowledging what I've always wanted. That's essentially what's happening here. When did she need his approval before? She broke up with him before, and then she forced herself back on him again, or as good as forced him, because she went and laid down next to him. He's like, I wanted to be alone, and she's like all butthurt and leaves, and then she argues with him later. I just want you to, like, say that everything's gonna be okay, and, you know, oh my gosh, help. And then she says, no, not without you. Well, you were wanting to be the wisdom in possibly the same town, maybe a neighboring town, whatever. Now it's not without you? What? But then, okay, so she acknowledges that she made a mistake. Okay, fine, I guess. It just undoes everything up until now. And then Rand says, I'll come with you to the White Tower. Every Aes Sedai needs a warder. Well, actually, what I'm predicting here is that Perrin actually is going to eventually become Egwene's warder. I feel like they've been hinting very strongly towards he would make a really great warder, and she's going to be an Aes Sedai, so it would mean a lot more if it was a warder that we all know. So, Perrin, would you really think that I'd let someone else be yours? And then she kisses him like, I've waited forever for you to say that. What does this girl want? She doesn't know. At least Rand is being consistent. He just wants to be with her, and he will fight to be with her, even if he has to be basically her slave. And then Egwene says, Rand, if it's you, I want you to know that I will stay by your side. I will always be with you. I will, you know, whatever, like no matter what happens. And then they say nothing after that. Like, if they don't know who the dragon is, wouldn't the best thing then be for him to say the same thing back to her? Something like that. Or I guess this was the exchange for him saying that he'll be her warder if, you know, she's an Aes Sedai, but he didn't. I don't know.
Don't know, don't care. How's that?
Then we've got Nynaeve doing I don't know what with her braid, but okay. But I do have to wonder, was Moiraine still connected to Lan when they were banging? So was she part of this, like in some sort of a psychological threesome?
I made it!
I made it! And all because of your love.
Our love, Freddy. We all love you.
I'm guessing that there are a lot of really interesting fanfics out there about Wheel of Time, especially this scenario. Okay, I was gonna make a comment here about Nynaeve getting up and getting dressed and braiding her hair, and she's gonna leave. Lan didn't wake up at all to any of that. Well, I guess, he's never allowed to sleep, so he must have been really tired. Okay, I'll buy this. I know that Nynaeve is supposed to be good at tracking and stalking, but she's not as good as Lan, and Lan certainly would notice somebody who's next to him getting up out of bed and getting dressed right there. I don't know. Quick question, does Lan in the show ever speak in any way that isn't just a whisper, like a...
Could be warmer. We need to leave. Now. When the world needed them most, they built their wall with no gate. Are you really in a position to be making demands? It's too early to be so tired. That's what the last king of Manetheren said to his wife. Well, I can tolerate a lot. Well, it's nice to see you two. You're leaving.
So now Nynaeve asks, who are those people we just had dinner with? It's a little awkward in the timing, but I will admit that for the sake of visual storytelling, and I guess it kind of works. It's just not natural. I mean, I feel like there are ways to do this cleverly. And Nynaeve has her first moment of showing that she actually is wise. I never understood why you bonded yourself to Moiraine, she says. And he goes, well, now you know. And like, no, well, you're a boy without a king. You're a king without a kingdom. You were a boy without a family. But now you have a place to belong with her. And he's like, oh, wow, you understand me so much. Like, I didn't feel like this was a revelation for him, but I guess it is always a weird thing when, somebody just spells it out there for you like that. And he assures her she doesn't own me. And she goes, doesn't she? And Lan goes, it's only comparable to those kids owning you. I do think that it's awkward that she didn't then share her tragic history, which is apparently she watched her parents die. Like, there's usually a fair exchange of information like this. Like, she should have said, like, I feel like I understand. Like, maybe he should have asked her, actually. That would be the polite thing to do. And if he is living in a magical compassion with somebody else, right? Or empathy with somebody, he feels what Moiraine feels. You'd think this would be something he would be curious to know about. Okay, so she's like somebody he's taken romantic interest in. He should want to know how are you so insightful? Like, he doesn't have to say it that way, but maybe he says, I've heard something about you and your family. I don't know. Nah, that's an awkward. These are things that should have come out earlier, before. And I remember the conversation that happened on the hill with the water thing. And she said that it was the last words that my parents said to me. But the details didn't come out then. So this would have been that time. This would have been earlier should have happened. Moving on. I don't care. And I'm getting flashbacks now of the conversation between Siuan and Moiraine when she suddenly started saying, like, no love of one's own, the only the Amerlin seat. Like, she suddenly just started saying that. And here, Lan says something similar, but not pitying himself, more like pitying her. A wisdom never weds. And then she starts breaking down. Like, okay, so she's felt alone. Again, would have really been nice to have seen hints of her struggling with this loneliness up until now. But we didn't see any of it, so it just felt forced. This whole thing feels forced. But I will call Robert Jordan out on this one for not doing a much better job. Like, yeah, we should have been in Nynaeve's head when she was first forging a personal relationship with Lan, and we weren't really there. We had brief snatches of conversation, pretty much never in private, and then suddenly they are arguing about how they can't be together because he has nothing to offer her. I don't know. Thank you, by the way, to the commenters who pointed out that Nynaeve does not exactly look happy after getting laid. I mean, I get it. She broke her vow of spinsterhood, but didn't she enjoy herself? I mean, Lan is glowing here, so I don't know, at least one of them had a good time. But anyway, back to the show. So he asks her to stay, and then we get over to Rand and Egwene, and they apparently banged also. So everybody got to hook up tonight, except poor Perrin. He's just off in Lonesome Town. Okay, so he wakes up after thinking about his dad, and this happened in the book. So in the book, Rand, after Tam has killed the Trolloc, and Rand went and built whatever. Anyway, he's with his dad in the forest, and his dad is like he's in a fever. He starts talking about stuff that doesn't quite make sense, and now we're getting that. So in the show, they didn't show this at all. I can only imagine that the people who are only watching the show who didn't read the book are going, when the hell did this happen? Because it didn't happen in episode 1. We didn't see this. But this is what happened in episode 1. And I think that they knew that if they had this happen in episode 1, it would have been just obvious that Rand is the dragon, like he is the one. But it feels really awkward to just shove it in here right before the revelation, the big reveal, who is the dragon. It feels like an afterthought. This was a bad choice, bad writing. They should not have concealed who the dragon is. I think that was a mistake. And even if they did, what they should have done is had a bunch of mysterious things happening to all the characters, which would have required them to invent a whole lot more. I guess Perrin, it works fine. I guess Matt, it works fine. But honestly, the ladies, it would have been tough to pass. I mean, Egwene, there's no reason to think that she is the chosen one. There just isn't. Except for the fact that Moiraine says in that conversation in the tent to Lan, she's more powerful than Loghain, which we haven't seen any evidence of so far. And he goes out into the yard and starts shooting bullseyes and thinking about, which he wasn't able to do earlier. He was really off. And now he's thinking about like, oh, you know, all the things in his life that have been hints that he is the dragon, like remembering that he broke down the ironwood door that 3 men wouldn't have been able to break down. Or like seeing Dragon Mount before, which I don't understand how, if you were an infant, how you could remember seeing that, but okay. Yeah, and apparently it was him in the Ways who channeled, not Egwene. And I did go back and check to see, like, is this what happened? Well, they had it so close in the Ways where Egwene puts up her hands and you see the channeling magic stuff happen. So she channeled, but then his arm comes around and you don't see that until now that he actually is channeling then also. Except when he's channeling, it's not black, it's white. So he's channeling the female side. Now, I've heard this in the comments that people think that maybe the show has changed the magic so that there is only one magic, and that after after men handle it, it becomes tainted, which would make sense to the beginning. I mean, like in the prologue when she was saying like, now when men use the one power, it's, you know, corrupted, you know, because the arrogance, that's what I remember. Like, okay, so you've changed the magic system here, and this seems to be like a show of that. And, you know, now thinking back to what's his face, Loghain, I'd have to watch that scene again to see like, is he channeling the white magic or the black magic? Or is the black magic in the white magic? I don't know how this works. But the thing is, in the book, it's supposed to be 2 different halves of the magic. Like it's 2 different things that are still basically the one power, but men can only use one side and women can only use the other side. And they're not really differentiating between the 2 except for this black thing, which was the same as the whatever it was from the dagger. Anyway, yeah, and then you have the Machin Shin voice. Apparently there was something else that it had said to him in the Ways, but we didn't get to hear it then. We're only hearing it now. Even though it let us be in everybody's heads earlier, now it's like, aha, we didn't tell you what it actually said to him, or we only told you part of what it said. It actually told him, you know, you've always known that you're the one, that you are the Dragon Reborn, you are the Dragon Reborn. And then we see him defending Egwene a second time well, now the third time, except the first time it was in the ways and we didn't really see it, but now we've seen it a second time in his memory of it. And you see that it isn't just white magic, it's black that comes in afterwards. So like he was channeling both. I'm confused about what they're trying to say about what the magic is. Like he's channeling only the black, or is he channeling the white and it becomes black after he channels it? So he makes it bad. I'm confused. I don't know how this works. It's not the way that it is in the book, and so I'm just trying to figure out what these new rules are that they're doing in this show. And I tell you what, it seems to be different enough that I unless they're just messing up, unless this is just clumsiness or like a lack of being thoughtful, and you know what, maybe we should portray the two different types of magic as being different. But see, they're not. They've got the white magic for the women, and then they've got the black magic for the men, but they've got the men wielding both the white and the black. I'm so confused. I'm not going to try and think about it. I don't really know why they had Rand go to the bar then afterwards to talk to Min, to like confirm what he had already figured out for himself. But okay, I think they were like, how do we finish the vision the story of the Aiel woman on the mountain giving birth, and then the soldier who came up with the sword? How do we finish that? Well, I guess this is the only way that they could think of. I could sit here and try to think of a better way to do it, but why? Why should I bother? I'm not gonna do it. I don't care. I don't care. So, in the memory that Min is sharing with Rand, she saw that he went and helped her. Tam went and helped the Aiel woman on the mountain give birth. And, well, you know, she gave birth and he holds the baby and he cuts the umbilical cord, and the sound effect here is scary, but okay. That's what cutting an umbilical cord sounds like, I guess. Sounds like you're pulling a blade through a chain, but all right. I guess the Aiel are built differently from normal people. I mean, it makes sense. It's such a petty complaint. Now, in the book, Min does not know that he is the dragon reborn. She doesn't know. And I find this a little weird that she would that she wouldn't have had a bigger reaction to Rand. Like, but she's just like, yeah, that baby was something impossible. And, you know, I knew it was you. The moment I saw your sword, I knew it was you. Like, you were the one. She's essentially saying, I know that you are the most legendary figure in all of existence ever. Ever. I knew it was you. Yeah. What are the odds? Just not reacting. Like, I didn't like this scene at all. It wasn't actually a bad scene on its own, but within the context of this story, no. And then he asks her, what do you see when you look at me now? And I did like that she says, you know, rainbows and carnivals and 3 beautiful women. And then he asks her, did you see the eye of the world? And she goes, I wish I didn't. And he says, do I make it back? And she doesn't answer. She just walks away. I mean, okay, I guess that is a definitive answer, no. But then he does survive the eye of the world in the book. So she sees that he doesn't. But I thought everything that she sees comes true. Why wouldn't she just say, yes, you do make it back? Because the writers wanted the audience to be worried he wouldn't make it back, even though we've been told that the real risk is whoever is not the dragon and goes to the eye of the world, they're the ones who are going to die. So where are what's at stake here? What? I am so weirded out by this new dynamic between Egwene and Nynaeve. I mean, when did their roles switch place? Because now, okay, so Egwene the next morning shows up at Nynaeve's room, knocks, no one answers, so she just lets herself in, has a seat on the bed. Then Nynaeve comes back in. I guess you could call this the walk of shame, but it's not really. She comes back in like, oh, you caught me not sleeping in my bed. That means I was banging Lan. I mean, how did Egwene figure out that she was banging Lan? I don't know. But she knows now. And now Nynaeve is like apologizing to Egwene. And their roles seem to have switched. This happened in the conversation in the waiting room before when Nynaeve blew it and let everybody know that Perrin likes Egwene or whatever. Somehow Egwene became the wise person, and Nynaeve became the one who's underneath, the below, all of this feels forced. It doesn't feel like it naturally got here. And it doesn't feel within the character of the characters. Then Perrin comes in, and no apology to him. Perrin was owed an apology just as much as Egwene was, if not more, because she outed his secret. Okay. But she asks, so what did you decide? Like, I've been waiting for you guys to tell me what your decision is. And they all sit around there and admit that they've all decided that they're going to go. But where's Rand? And I love the fake out that we have here where we've got Rand coming down a hallway and he knocks on a door, and then we see Nynaeve from the inside of a room go to answer the door, but it's Lan. See, Rand was actually knocking on Moraine's door, and she opens the door, very surprised to see him, and he says,
"It's me. I'm the dragon."
Anyway, Moiraine just believes him. That was okay. He must know. She couldn't figure it out, but the kids know. And definitely none of them would have self-sacrificed for everybody else, and they couldn't possibly be wrong. It couldn't be being misled by the Dark One, which, where is the Dark One? So in the book, you really do, somebody mentioned this in the comments, and you know what, they are so right. There was this sense of the Dark One pursuing them wherever they went. Like, they could not hide from him. He was constantly after them. So Perrin and Egwene were being chased by crows that were minions of the Dark One, and then Rand and Matt were being chased by Fades, and then you just constantly got this feeling, and then in their dreams, they were always being hounded by them, and it wasn't until they met up with Moiraine, and she's like, don't worry, I've put up like a blockade, but they still had weird-ass dreams. So who cares that they're on their way to kill the Dark One or whatever? Like, he hasn't been a problem. The main villain should be the Dark One, and we've had like 3 dream sequences throughout the entire series, and none in, the last episode? Were there any? I don't think there were any in the last episode. Were there any in the one before that? I can't remember. Honestly, it's like the Dark One is not really a problem, and yet he's the main bad guy. It's supposed to be getting worse as they get to the Eye of the World. It's supposed to be like they feel the impending doom getting closer and closer and closer, and you get no sense of that whatsoever in the show. The Dark One is not the adversary. Even the Trollocs aren't really an adversary at this point. So when they're in Camelin in the book, right before they go to the Ways, they're in a town, not Tarvalin with the White Tower, but a different town. They're like surrounded by Trollocs. And it's like the pressure's on, we gotta get out of here. Okay, so wait. We did see them we saw one in the Ways. Whatever. But yeah, back to Rand knocking on Moraine's door and her answering and him going, I'm the one, it's me. I would have had this at the end of his little arrow shooting sequence, and I would not have had him go talk to Min at all. I don't understand what the point of all of that was, except to finish the intro that we had at the beginning of the episode. But, which meant that it was a waste, whatever. Even though it was very interesting, I liked it, but whatever, okay. It should have been, he gets up, we see him firing the arrows, everything's clicking, it's starting to make sense, everything's and then we cut from that to him knocking on a door. Moiraine opens the door and he says, it's me. And they leave in the night. That would have been better. But I guess you also had to have build up the questions and everybody else. Like they're all assembled together and like, oh no, like what do we do? And like, are we going? Yes, I guess we're going. And the apologies or whatever. And then Lan showing up and then like, oh, where's Rand? I guess that's one way to do it. I just didn't feel like it was, we had him figuring out that he's the one and then taking a break. And then we had to rebuild that tension again so that he could knock on the door and say, it's me. I don't know. It was probably fine. I just feel like it could have been better. Okay, but so Lan comes in and says that Moiraine has masked our bond, and then they figure out, where's Rand? Oh no, he went with her and they went to the Eye of the World, whatever. Well, okay. Here's the thing. It has been explained to me. Okay, maybe they changed this in the show, but it has been explained to me in the comments, and I'm not actually starting to figure it out. It's been explained to me in the comments, and it makes sense to me now that warders, when their Aes Sedai gets killed, they go insane and go on like this revenge thing, right? Where they're, and like, I guess somebody said if they can't kill anything, they like walk into the blight, they like go on a suicide mission, not actually kill themselves. They like fight until they're in a hopeless situation until they're dead. So here's the thing. She masks her bond to Lan, but leaves him with all these people. I mean, she didn't even say goodbye to him, like, so long, I'm about to go to the eye of the world with the dragon. I mean, unless she thinks that she won't die. Like, it was just them. It was just the non-dragon kids who would go to the eye of the world that would die. I'm not. Okay, whatever. So, she's masked the bond, didn't say goodbye, but if she I can only imagine she thinks she's going to live. So she goes off to the eye of the world, and she does live, thank goodness. I mean, maybe the kids are all going to go after her because they all end up there at the end. I guess there isn't really much of a reason for them all to be there at the end. But, I mean, I don't know, like, Loyal is supposed to talk to the Green Man, and, like, you get the sense that there's, like, this connection. I don't know, whatever. Okay, so let's... They go off to the eye of the world, Rand and Moiraine, by themselves, and they have to go through the blight. Now, in the book, it takes a long time to get through the blight, and you can't just go by yourself. That's why they need Lan. Like, Lan has been specially trained. Everything that he has done has prepared him for being able to navigate through the blight, okay? So, but she thinks that she can get Rand through by herself. Why does she need Lan? Why does she need Lan? I don't know. Anyway, that's where we are. It's hard to know what to say about this episode. It really is. This is, once again, I mean, at least I got a good laugh out of it once. So, predictions for final episode. So there's supposed to be this battle that happens, and all the kids... We don't even get to see it because all the kids are at the eye of the world, and which is a really cool thing, and it's described in a very interesting way in the book. So I hope they do something really cool with the eye. But they get there and they meet. They're basically chased by these monsters that are in the blight. I get the feeling we're going to see none of this. It's probably just going to be a hole in the ground. But so they go by themselves. But in the book, they all end up there. Maybe Loyal. No, okay, Lan will lead them through. I think that the kids are going to be like, we got to go and save them now. Oh my gosh. Okay, predictions. They're going to, all the girls are going to run into the blight, and they're going to save Rand. I don't know. I have no idea where they're going with this because, okay, everybody was supposed to go, so I think that they're faking out that they're not going. I'm still thinking Matt's gonna show up, but somebody said in the comments that the kid left, the actor left, so, and I'm guessing that they just wrote him out, so he's not really gonna go. It's a big mistake, but, okay. Whatever. Anyway, I'm not gonna talk about it anymore because why? I'm gonna watch episode 8, the finale, tomorrow, not tonight. It's too late, so yeah. Please like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. If you're feeling really generous, check out my Patreon or Ko-fi. Otherwise, you can hit the money heart thanks button, and I'll see you at the end.